Renaissance Leaders Leading on the Edge. I'm Victor Vogel. Forbes newsletter Edge talks about what the workforce should know about 2024. So, why is this important to know from a leadership perspective? First, we can relax about a recession, which usually means large layoffs. The unemployment rate stayed at 3.7% through December of 2023. The inflation rate dropped to 3.1%, way down from November of 2022 when it was at an all-time high of 9.1%. What those high-level economists and governments don't grasp yet is the average person making $100,000 per year or less is still feeling the pinch because the prices that inflation rose to are not dropping on a lot of essential items like food and rent. So Forbes predicts a stabilizing of the workforce, which normally means two things. One, pay increases are going to lessen because workers are shifting less between jobs. Workers are getting a taste of stability again, which dulls the memory of how they were treated before the pandemic. Secondly, it lessens the leverage for the workforce and also the opportunities. What is not said, and behind the lines, is employers are returning to their old cultural approaches to dealing with employees. They're commodities. The workforce is simply a means to the end for executives and owners. However, the prediction for 2025 is the hiring of more stable work positions. In other words, that's a way of saying on-site jobs. You will still see layoffs, but fewer than you've seen in the past, according to Forbes. Reading behind this prediction is layoffs. For example, disrupting employees' lives will still be the preferred way of meeting shareholder equity and reducing cost. How does that make you feel, say, as opposed to employees being valued and used to help seek alternative solutions prior to a company getting into trouble, or helping look at alternatives to curb a layoff? Current leadership just doesn't learn from our past mistakes. We seem to have short-term memories. So soon it will be back to usual instead of how can we do it better this time? This is what current leadership is striving for because employees perceived they didn't have any leverage over companies. When the pandemic hit, they realized they actually did have leverage. And look how the leverage worked in terms of increasing the average wage. It jumped quickly, and employees were balanced in terms of being valued in the company along with the leadership and the executives. The workforce also probably realizes now that becoming your own business owner, entrepreneur, entails more than just putting in long hours and great ideas. It requires having money up front to fund your business. It requires timing and being in the right niche at the right time. Something often attributed to luck. What is not discussed so much in this article is the fact that organizations and companies haven't yet woken up to a new workforce, and the complexity of running and growing a business has grown exponentially. This is concerning because companies want to return to the status quo where they feel comfortable. But that feeling can be disastrous because the external world is not returning to the status quo. It's operating from what one article in Forbes states as the edge, which our newsletter is aptly named. So you have businesses and organizations wanting to return to the status quo, and the world operating on the edge, ready to disrupt the status quo at any moment and to a large degree. For example, AI. What has become clear to me from researching many articles like this and simply observing the messes that the status quo leadership have created is that leadership development has created leaders who are not ready to handle the coming decades. And because they are invested in the current leadership paradigm, both mentally and financially. They don't want to change the paradigm. Resistance to paradigm change really not unusual. What is unusual is that during crisis, defining the change is not met with open-minded, clear-headed leadership who engage the workforce in anticipating potential issues that might address the problems, and then apply training and readying themselves. So if a scenario does happen, they have anticipated the problems and the whole organization is ready to act immediately. And then if the problem never happens, you're ahead of the game. Crucial. No, essential. Leadership today is seen as an end to results-based management. They're not viewed as creating a communal culture. In a normal, healthy family, if one member gets into trouble, the whole family rallies behind the person until they overcome the problem. That person's problem becomes the whole family's problem. Not true in organizations today. You see leadership seeking personal growth, fighting over budget dollars for their department, and battling for power to move up the chain. No one would ever think to continually increase somebody's salary because they, in that position, are considered critical to the company's success. In fact, could that person be worth more than the vice president of their division? Today, of course not. Tomorrow's Renaissance leader will be looking at that issue much differently. You don't have to be a PhD to realize that we are sustaining and even growing with the status quo. But when crisis hits, we are never ready. We react in ways that make us hesitate and often stagnate instead of charging the problem to overcome. This requires flexibility, creativity, the ability to operate at more than optimal capacity during difficult situations. It requires a much different leader than we have today. It requires us to rethink and alter how we source, select, develop, and manage leadership in organizations designed to cope with the next few decades. This is what my YouTube channel, Building Renaissance Leaders, is all about. You can find this in the description of this podcast. It is why you should become a patron and subscribe to the channel and all its sister audio podcasts, so you don't miss out on the greatest leadership paradigm change in history to date. It will prepare you to lead on the edge. You can join me this evening at 8 p.m. for a sample of what we believe is necessary for you to learn how to grow and become a Renaissance leader and lead on the edge. Join me tonight on my channel, Building Renaissance Leaders, live on YouTube, when I talk to Dr. Pauline Crawford about harmony. Something as simple as harmony, but as powerful as it can be in helping us lead on the edge. See you this evening.